Here we are, back again at the world famous Face Off podcast. This is a little weird right here. We're starting to try to figure out technology. Sorry for the noises. Trying to get everything dialed in. I'm like super hypersensitive to noises. I didn't realize how super hypersensitive I was to noises on a podcast till I started doing one and listening back to it. And I was like, ew, that's gross. Stop drinking ice water, dummy. Stop smacking your lips, weirdo. Stop snorting into the microphone, you gross pig dog. Stop swallowing with your mustache bristling up against the metal mesh of the microphone, you ding dong. Jesus, what's that all about? And I didn't realize I was sensitive to it. Like if somebody on a podcast would eat, it would drive me crazy. I'd be like, "You serious? You can't not eat for an hour? You dummy! Stop it! Stop doing that! Stop chewing right into the microphone. It drives me insane, completely insane." But now that I've actually done it and I listen to myself back and stuff, I'm hyper sensitive to it, which means that I'm like a little like I'll talk shit about it. I'll be like, ooh, that's a noisy podcast, because a lot of people don't give a shit. A lot of people don't give a fuck at all. They're just like snorting and hawking and clearing their grossness, you know, swallowing, ugh, all sorts of disgusting stuff. There's this thing. I hate that thing too that happens. I do it quite a bit, but where it's like you're like, well, that thing, ew, it's terrible. And I just did it a whole bunch of times. I just did all those horrible things that I was just talking about not doing because they're gross. But I'm also like congratulatory to somebody who has a good podcast with nice sound where they try to avoid that kind of stuff. You know, I think that's solid, totally solid. So what I'm trying to say is I'm a snob in every regard. I'm a hater, but also a congratulator for what that's worth. It's not worth anything. That's what it's worth. Anyway, welcome back here. We're at my living room. I know this looks like a high-tech studio, but it's just my living room. It's actually just one corner. I'm not using the whole living room either. There's a lot of space here, but I'm not using it. I'm just sticking to one corner with my weird green screen frames back. Those hang on the wall all the time. I don't take them down. That's my modern art thing. The eBay tape, and you can't see them if you're just listening, so you're missing out. That's sad for everybody involved here, because this is an important moment in podcast history. I think it's going to be one of the greats after several bombs in a row. Actually, I don't know. Was last week okay? I don't remember. It was pretty all right, I think. Maybe not. It's hard to say. We'll see what this week brings. I had the idea that stand-up helps. If I go do stand-up all week long, it helps the episode to be better, and vice versa. The episode helps stand-up to be a little bit better. Well, a little more rambling. I don't know if that's better. Technically, it's better for me since it's funner that way. But I haven't done any stand-up for a while, so and I don't know if I'll be doing it regularly for a while coming up. So if this and every episode after sucks, that's going to be the reason, and we'll come to that conclusion around episode 26. That's going to be a big one, episode 26. I'm terrified. I'm absolutely horrified by this, because I started splitting up this viewing a little bit today. I think this camera's crooked. If I hold my head a little, who gives a fuck? Everybody probably. Every person on earth will give a fuck about this crooked camera. I tried splitting up my viewing. It helped a little bit. I got 2 15-minute viewings in, and then had to do three 15-minute viewings. Then I had to do the whole thing tonight. It just like keeps, there's that weird thing I was talking about last week, I think, where if I'm not thinking about something, it's not there. I'm not kind of thinking about it. I'm just not thinking about it at all. And that's good and bad at the same time. It's a lot less worry, but also I'm less good at doing stuff, like getting stuff done and everything, which is not good-ish. I don't know. Trying to get rid of good and bad, or just going for experience. It's all experience. It's all enrichment. It's all helping in the long run, helping to move things forward, helping the evolution of my mankind, at least my mankind, which is the kind of man that I'm most interested in, is me. This episode, this episode's called The Human Centipede for some reason. That's a movie I've never seen. I've never been interested in it. Everybody kind of knows the general gist of that movie, which is crazy. It's just crazy. Like, that's a like a viral movie, sort of, where it's like if you just mention the name Human Centipede, most people have a clue about what that's about, you know? That's a weird thing to have a clue about, too. Everybody has a clue about that. That's strange. Anyway, that's what I feel like, that my mouth is sewed onto my asshole, and a weird extra mouth has opened up in the back of my head to where I'm just doing some horrible Ouroboros thing, you know, where I'm basically just eating the shit of Face Off, and then shitting out the shit made up of the shit, and then eating that shit also. And then shitting it out again, and then eating. So, I just did it. I just did that snappy thing. It's because my mind is I'm double. What do you call that? I'm multitasking right now. I'm doing multiple things, talking and doing some work also. So here's the thing. There's this idea I had about this particular podcast. Well, two ideas. One was just stopping it and never ever doing it again, or thinking about doing it again, and basically just not doing anything again. Just curling up into a corner and inside one of the larger fractures in my psyche, and snuggling up against the one of the outcroppings of crystallized something. What do we got? What is it? Petrified. So some outcropping of petrified garbage, and just snuggling up there for the rest of eternity until the end times draw nigh. But the other idea, so that was one idea. The other idea I had was that there's so there's been a seeking element that is what's the word I'm looking for here? It's perspicacious. No, I just made that word up. I was trying to reach for a good one. Perspicacious could be the right word. We just have to get it into the vernacular. No, the word is insidious. There's this insidious thing. Sometimes I don't want to do something, but I'm so used to doing it that it happens anyway. It just happens without me really trying for it to happen. And what's been happening in this podcast is I'm seeking, and it sort of was there from the beginning, where it's like the baseline idea of this podcast is to find the meaning of life in the movie Face Off. A pithy rejoinder. Is that no? That's wrong. A pithy phrasing that explains the meaning of life in simple, easy to understand excellence. And so that was the point of this thing here. But implicit in that tagline or in that synopsis or whatever, there is the looking. If you're going to find something, you have to look for it. I'm seeking something, and that is absolutely not what I want to be doing right now. The seeking isn't okay. So, as far as I understand it, the seeking is one stage of evolution, kind of, or enlightenment, however you want to look at it. The seeking is a stage. You become a seeker, and you seek things out, and I think in tandem with becoming a seeker, one becomes a collector. So you seek, you find, you collect as at this stage, and you're gathering all these little pebbles of wisdom around you, pebbles of knowledge, turning them into wisdom, that sort of thing, and you feel real special about it. and then at some point all those pebbles are crushed to gravel, and crushed beyond that to sand, and beyond that to just particles, dust, and you're left with nothing, just dust. And all your ideas and all your plans and all that bullshit is shown for what it is, which is nothing. It's transitory. It's just like everything else. So then you would move, a person would move past the seeking phase into openness, into being open and present. And as Eckhart Tolle says, presence is different than patience, because patience implies that there's a limit to it. Presence, there is no limit. You are just present anytime you choose to be. There's no limit to it. Your patience can run out, obviously. My patience runs out daily, almost hourly. I get frustrated, and I lose my patience. But presence is available to everybody all the time. It's just it's a practice. It's a thing that never ends. You may get better at it, but there's always more mountain to climb, so to speak. So in that regard, where I'm looking at this as not seeking but open. So I'm not necessarily scouring face off for handholds to climb the mountain. I'm recognizing face off more as a meditation, like a very weird guided meditation through myself, because there's definitely parts that I'm more able to be comfortable with, and there's parts that I'm uncomfortable with, and I'm trying to be present with those parts and see what it opens up in me, what I'm thinking of. I'm trying to leave preconceived notions behind, and also just not look for something. I've never been able to meditate, with any kind of success, which is the kind of attitude that precludes not having success with meditation, is just the idea that I won't be able to do it, and I have not been able to do it, so I will not be able to do it. That precludes failure. So this is what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to treat this Face Off podcast and Face Off as a meditation. It's a little bit easier to treat the talking part, the podcasting part, as a meditation, because it's a conscious act that I can do almost unconsciously. Like, I don't feel like I'm having these ideas, that I am actually the one saying, okay, I feel like I'm having the ideas, I'm saying the ideas, but I don't feel, okay, I feel like I'm saying the ideas, but I don't feel like I'm having the ideas necessarily, because there's no time in between. There's no filter. There's no edit. So, and I tried to as lightly as possible, edit these. If there's some horrible noise or something, I try to edit that out. But other than that, it's or if there's a gigantic string of racial or homophobic or sexist slurs, I'll cut those right out. That doesn't happen very often, but you never know what you're drudging up. You know what I mean? From the depths, from the dark and dirty. So I try to keep it as unedited as possible. Just Just lay it out there raw. I'm probably going to figure out how to do it live at some point. I don't know if I have those capabilities at the moment, but we'll see. We'll see about that. We'll see how it works, because I would rather do that than not. It'd be easy. It would be easier. It would cut down the post production work quite a bit. We're gonna see about that. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, I feel like a horn, right? Like the horn is making the noise, but without something blowing through it, it's not making noise. It's just sitting there. So that's why this feels like a meditation to me. There was a book by Chuck, I want to say Palahniuk is how you say his name, but I don't know. People say it different, but I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. He was the author of Fight Club and a bunch of other books. But there was a book called Choke that he did, and it talked about using driving as a meditation as a precursor to time travel. So you had to get in a certain state while driving, and I believe there was a crash involved in that, some sort of time travel thing. Anyway, I've seen that before. I think most people have experienced that. I think people call it road hypnosis or something like that. White line fever. I might have just made that one up, but it's pretty good. You experience that. Maybe say I'm not a good meditator. I've never meditated before. But if you feel that sort of road hypnosis where it doesn't even feel like you're the one driving, that something, you're not even. I think even just basic, basic stuff like not remembering. If you think back, like, oh, did I use my turn signal? You don't even remember that because it's so automatic. So that's a form of meditation, and not one to really be taken lightly. I mean, it can be very useful, and that's part of. I think that's part of meditation, is just being aware that you're doing it. Raising your awareness of what's going on and how you're being and stuff. So that's what I see this as. I'm trying to see. I can see this part, the talking part, as a meditation part. I can almost see like the post production part too, of putting everything together to put out there as a sort of meditation. But the watching a face off, that's where I have the problem, where I'm like, ugh, everything sucks. I'm putting judgments on this. Like, why am I doing this? I dread it throughout the week. If I'm watching it one time, I dread it on Monday. I'm not into it. It is fucking awful. So that's what I'm trying to do, is trying to find a sense of presence, trying to find a sense of awareness of what's going on inside me and what's causing that to happen. And then from that, you turn, things get revealed and turned over and everything. And so all this is a big preamble to saying, like, I don't know, like the list form that I've been going through is just writing down the ideas that I've had of this movie. And I feel like I'm not really being repetitious. Like I'm consciously trying to avoid repetition of an idea, from one before. I'm not really doing a lot of cross-checking, but I have a pretty good idea of what I've noted in this movie already. You'd be surprised at how well I know this fucking movie already, man. It is not complex. The complexity is in the stuff that isn't mentioned really. It's behind the scenes complexity. Up front, it's pretty simple. I mean, it has a complex conceit where there's these two actors, they're each playing a character, then they switch characters, but they still have the same faces. So that's one of the tricks of this movie, is to make you think that what happened isn't that Nicolas Cage just started acting like Sean Archer and John Travolta just started acting like Castor Troy, but that they switched faces and had their bodies switch. So it's still John Travolta inside Nicolas Cage's body. You know what I mean? This is could be a very nuanced sort of role. I was actually watching Alf the other day, and there's a part where Willie does an impression of Alf, And Alf's like, no, you're not doing it good. And he's like, this is what I see you as, this is, and so that's what they did way better than Travolta and old, what's his name? Nicolas Cage. So, all this stuff that I've been talking about so far isn't fresh. I don't want to come across like that's what's going on here, that I'm coming up with anything fresh. These are all ideas that are out there. They're out there in the ether. And I would just, what brings this line of thought up is that I was looking online. How many conversations start like that these days? I was looking online. I bet a very, very misproportionate amount do. Even, and then 50 years ago, it was zero. It was zero. And now it would come up once in a million years when somebody would say online instead of inline. You know how some people say that, where they're like, I was waiting online. So it would say I was online looking at the magazine at the grocery store aisle or something like that. That's how it would come up 50 years ago, once every bazillion other conversations. Nowadays, it's probably, misproportionately huge. I would say 25% of all conversation starts with I was looking online, and that's massive. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I wonder how many end with let's look online. You don't have those wonders anymore. So all this stuff is old news. It's all out there. And, so I was looking online, and there was a thing about Osho, who was I wouldn't say he was the main subject of this new documentary on Netflix, The Wild Wild Country, but his place, his ashram or whatever it was in Oregon was the subject, and I feel like his second in command, I don't know, the woman, she was kind of the main focus, and he was sort of secondary. But people were saying online about how his stuff, his writings, which are vast. I don't think he wrote, but he did talk, and people transcribed it and stuff. So I don't think he wrote books, but he talked, and people transcribed them into books. So his speakings, his ideas, they're voluminous. There's lots of them. There's tons of them. And people are like, well, these are just old ideas. These are Buddhist ideas. These are revisited, reheated Christian ideas, and blah blah blah, and all this stuff. And that could be that could be true. It probably is totally true, 100% true. But that's the thing about ideas, is Jesus might have had an idea, and old Buddha might have had an idea, and there might be some ideas in the Quran, and there might be some ideas from Hinduism. You know what I mean? There might be ideas that are wonderful, that are that would be pivotal for me to understand in my life, but they're not built for me. They don't fit in my head. The Lego is the incorrect size. Not even the Lego, like the Tetris piece. It's the incorrect shape, And so it goes into somebody else's head, and then it gets formed into the correct shape unknowingly, is the way that I see it. That it's like part of the system of the world, is how everything. I had this vision one time. Ate a bunch of mushrooms, was laying on the floor looking at the ceiling. I had this weird vision of these gears, and they were moving in opposite directions, and it was gears inside of gears, and it was this big, huge thing. And the gears were made up of everything, every little thing. And I kept looking for everything I could think of, and there was everything there. There was elephants and umbrellas, and rain and umbrellas, they go together. But wind, there was earthquakes, there was hate, there was love, toucans, tuna fish. Everything was in there. Everything that I looked for had a spot, and it wasn't like they were right next to each other. I had to look around sometimes, but everything had a spot, and it was all moving in like this watch, and I've foolishly or not, you held on to that vision sort of everything fitting, and it's very difficult to go to that in times of when things are hard. But it is really easy to go to it when things are going good, where it's like, oh yes, this works, this fits, this is how it goes, because it's good. It's good for me. It's good for everybody. But when it's bad for me, it's like, God damn it, how does this fucking fit in here, you motherfucker, son of a bitch? But it does fit, I always try to think of some dude in China having a fucking great day, the first great day that he's had in months, and it's just my shithole of a day. That's a real simplistic outlook on it. That's where karma gets a weird rap. Like, karma gets this rap of being this sort of avenging angel of whatever, but it's just like the movement of stuff. It's just the tide of things, as far as I see it. So I see in my head this huge gear, and part of that gear is the thing that takes the words that Jesus Christ said that don't fit in my head, and takes those words and puts them into somebody else's head who it does fit, and they take it out of their head, and then they say it in a way that it fits in my head. And so now it's in there. It feels good that way. Do you remember that movie, Deep Blue Sea? What an awful movie. So, but there's a part where LL Cool J is talking to the clean-cut white boy who is the hero. I think he's the hero. And he's like a scientist or something. But the dude, I don't remember who it was. It was probably somebody. I mean, obviously it was it was somebody. It was somebody on the scale of fame, just not as high as LL Cool J, obviously. Because who the fuck is? So they were talking about the theory of relativity, and the white dude said to LL, who is ostensibly an uneducated cook, what he knew about the theory of relativity, and he's like, "Oh, I heard about that, man." That was a pretty racist impression. That's what he sounded like, though. It's like, "I heard about that, man. That's when if you have your hands on a hot pan, a minute can seem like an hour, but if you have your hands on a hot woman, an hour can seem like a minute." And the white scientist dude goes, "Whoa, I've never heard the theory of relativity explained so well. That was dope, brother." I don't think he said that part. But so Einstein had an idea. It went into a bunch of people's heads, and then it went into this guy's head, and it came out of his mouth in a different way. Einstein never said that shit. Never said shit like that. So it came out. And it tripped up this other dude, tripped him out. How many other people did LL Cool J's character trip out with that totally wacky summation of one of the greatest theories of our time? I read about that, that Einstein had, four different theories or something like that. And they were simple, they were short, and they were revolutionary, like monstrously revolutionary. I don't know. Go look up Einstein. Who the fuck cares? It's crazy, though. And somebody could come up with some wacky shit like that. So what were we talking about here? I was off on a tangent. I'm totally lost. 100% lost. 100% lost. All right. So, yeah. Don't... if something feels... whatever, I don't know. Everything, I think everything owes a debt, or is, I don't know, sort of, they talk about standing on the shoulders of giants, and that is definitely a thing, but it isn't the only thing, I don't want to get off on another thing. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to stop there with that. So here we are. This is episode 11, the human centipede of the Face Off podcast. 11, that's 22 motherfucking hours of Face Off, man. That's more than 22. God. Ooh, that's almost a whole, I'm definitely in a day. A whole day. One whole motherfucking cocksucking day. God damn it. Son of a bitch bastard. That's too much. And there's so much more to go. This is a constant. See, even just thinking about it now, it gives me a little bit of anxiety. I can be present right now and say that I'm feeling anxious about this, but it doesn't cure the anxiety. And I feel like there's people out there who have anxiety attacks that are like, "Fuck you don't know shit about anxiety," and that's right. It is just it's a very light sheen of anxiety. It's not even anxiety. It's just that I'm not looking forward to it. That's my place of privilege, is that I can call something I'm not looking forward to anxiety, which that's like people who have a hard day and say that they're depressed. I'm so depressed because I didn't get my parking spot and I got rained on today, and it makes me want to fucking choke their brains out. I'm not even going for your neck. I'm going to choke your brain right out of your skull, you dummy. I show you depressed. I want to choke your brain with my words. I want to use my words inside your head. I feel like I can do that too sometimes with people. Like I can get in somebody's head and talk them into or out of something without even really being too blunt about it, you know. That's not cool though. That's like some funky ass manipulation. Isn't that weird? Sometimes you come across a tool in your tool belt and you're like, oh, I could use this all the time. This is like Louis C.K. had a bit about his daughter learning how to lie, and got her out of trouble, and then he's like, you shouldn't do that. And it's like, how does that make sense to a kid where you find this magic power? And it's like, no, you shouldn't do that. You should tell the truth instead of lying, even though it works really good. All right, let's get into this. Yeah, let's do this thing. So we're into Face Off. The jingle bells. There's jingle bells at the beginning, and it drove me crazy every time. It was one of those things where I'd hear those jingle bells and I'd get all tight and like, oh, here we go again, motherfucker. I'm pretty sure I figured it out. I think that because there's jingle bells at the end too. I think they're reversed. Not the sound, but the order. So like the way the jingle bells are played is reversed. Like it's I don't know, maybe just it's a different melody, but it seems like the same melody, just backwards. You know, that's a wild thing. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's just in a different key or something like that. I don't know shit about music. So, but it is jingle bells at the beginning, jingle bells at the end. I never noticed it until this time. Why the fuck, man? Why those fucking jingle bells, son? Why? There's no reason for this. This isn't a Christmassy movie. That is the only place you need jingle bells, man. Either that or in a fucking tight, like super tight hip-hop beat. Just what, like Nothing by Tech 9? They want to leave me with Nothing? That's got some jingle bells in it, and that's pretty dope. I just said dope. I'm an idiot. There's some fucking... Okay, so there is a thing that makes me uncomfortable in this movie, and it is the pedo vibes, man. The pedophilia vibes. And it's easy to say that everything in Hollywood is built around pedophilia and everything because the evidence is absolutely everywhere. But this is some weird shit. I mean, there's the obvious stuff with Archer's daughter who's meant to be underage and everything, and the choir girl. So, oh yeah, okay, so Castor Troy likes young women. It's easy to say that and be like, oh, that's cool. But it's just some weird thing with the interaction with adults and children in this movie. It's there's not a sense of the children being people, which I can respect. a little bit. I can get down with that. There's an idea that I don't know whose idea it was, but there was an idea. I want to say it was like a Native American's idea, but they don't. They wouldn't. They wouldn't mourn the death of a child really because the soul wasn't complete. You know, it was something like when you're like 14 years old or something. That's when your soul is complete and you actually have a soul to mourn. You know what I mean? And I can get down with that idea. I really can. But so the way that the children and the adults interact in this movie is less of like, this is a little person that I need to take care of and look after, and more like this is a possession that I can lose and somebody else can gain. And it's gross, kind of, you know, it's really weird. And there's this sense of, okay, so when you put something on a pedestal, that expression of putting something up on a pedestal, it's tantamount to putting something in a precarious position too. You know, to put something on a pedestal lifts it off the ground, puts it in this little area where if it goes out of that area, it will fall, it will break. And so that's part of what I feel like here is that these kids are put on a pedestal, and that's it. Man, I don't know. We have to. We'll get back into that. But there's some weird thing about like pedophilia. You know, nobody talks about it because it's gross. I mean, it's just gross anyway. Kids are disgusting, dude. Yuck. I don't want to get that close to a kid. Grosses me right out the fucking door. But so I don't get that. Like I don't understand it, obviously, which is good for me. But at the same time, it feels like it should be something that's more understood. Like, what is that drive, you know? And it's just the vibe in this movie that, man, like, oh boy, I don't know. It's like just the way they touch kids and they move kids around and talk to them and stuff. It's just gross. And the way that and ultimately the way that Mikey, who was the impetus for the entire revenge plot of the movie, like the entire movie happens because Mikey dies basically. And in the end, he's just replaceable. He's instantly replaceable. Let's get one that looks pretty much like him, right around the same size, and we'll be good. It's all better. We're all better now. Jingle bells, and we're out. I'm going to take a drink of water here. Sometimes wish there was another person, so when I did a drink of water, they would be talking. Like I should have a drink of water music or something. So anyway, if you watch the movie, keep the gross like nuzzles and touches and kisses and groin pushes and butt grabs and the shots too of where it's like, man, just geez. It's easy to think that we haven't come a long ways, but if you start looking at movies from the 90s, man, you'd be like, holy fuck, that was some wacky shit, because some of the only ones we really remember, even the 2000s, I mean, fuck, even right now, things have changed, but it's hard to pinpoint sometimes. There's a funny scene, I don't know, I think it's funny, and it's where John Travolta is on the ground, he's got his dead son, dead or dying, however you want to qualify that, his dead or dying son, and he's on the ground right outside of the merry-go-round, and he's crying, he's screaming, he's yelling, he's gasping. He's been shot too, so he's also dying or trying to. And in the background, there is people still riding the merry-go-round with they haven't noticed at all, like just do right past him. And I think that's that could have been like a commentary or a metaphor for violence in the world. I've seen violence in the world, and I avoid it as much as possible. You know, like I saw somebody get into a fight at the bus stop before, and outside of my house before and everything. And the closest I want to get to that is like maybe yelling from a distance to stop. You know, I don't want to get involved in it. It's a scary thing because it's got its own mind. You know, the when somebody gets violent, when somebody else starts punching. Oh, I saw a dude get punched at taco time one time, and it was this old Chinese dude and this younger dude sitting in a booth, and the Chinese dude kept saying, "Don't touch my food," and he was all G'd up and shit. "Don't touch my food, motherfucker," and for full disclosure, he actually kept calling him the N-word, which I don't like to even bother bringing up because I hate saying the N-word just as much as the word that the N-word represents, and I hate this whole stupid dance around it. But that's what he kept calling him, that and motherfucker, and he was all G'd up and shit for being an old ass Chinese guy, like a skinny Mr. Miyagi. That's my only Chinese reference. Was he Chinese? Fuck. I think he was. So racist. God damn it. Oh yeah, so he kept saying, "Don't touch my," and the other dude was a white dude. That's why I didn't even mention his race, because who the fuck. Anyway, "Don't touch my food, motherfucker." So he kept saying, and the dude was drunk. The other dude was super drunk, and he was like smiling and stuff, and he kept reaching over and stealing his tater tots. And finally the Chinese dude was like, "I told you," and he stood up and just cracked him right in the fucking nose like 3 times, just whop, and then sat back down. And he's like, "I told you, motherfucker." And the guy was super stunned. And he was like, "Oh," and I was standing right next to him too, getting a soda, and I was like, "Oh shit, he just punched that guy." And the dude was real stunned. And he was surprised, you know, and for like 2 seconds he just sat there looking at the other guy with his eyes wide open, and then fucking torrents of blood started gushing out of his nose, just spraying everywhere. I was like, "Oh, holy fucking shit." It's just dumping all over the table, all down the front of his shirt. And he was so drunk. He's just kind of like, "What? Like, what's happening?" You know? And the people, I looked at the dude that worked at Taco Time. I was like, "Yo, dude, you got a situation out here, man." Which I hate to do, man, because that is a fucked up situation for a Taco Time dude to have to deal with. A fast food worker. Those guys have to deal with so much violence. There's so many fight videos of fast food workers on the internet, and it's like, are you seriously the shittiest, minimum wagiest, fucking garbagest job, and you got to deal with people fighting? They should have that shit like sealed off, where it's just like you're inside a bulletproof box, and the whole world can just die outside. You'll be fine inside. But he was like, "Yo, you guys got to get out of here." And he just stood there. He like crossed his arms and stood up real straight behind the counter. "You have to leave now. You have to leave now." And the dude got up and with just a trail of blood out. So much blood. Oh my God. And the other guy was like, "I told that motherfucker. I told him." He was so little and skinny and frail looking too, in Chinese, but he was so fucking G'd up. He's like, "That shit don't go, motherfucker. I told him. Another guy was like, "I don't care. You have to leave, sir." You have to leave. So I wasn't about to get involved in that shit. I don't want to get blood on me. I don't want to get punched in the nose. That's scary, man. So I identify with those dildos on the merry-go-round. I keep calling it a merry-go-round. It's a goddamn carousel. Because merry-go-rounds are those things in parks that they used to have. It would spin a kid around in a circle, you know, or a bunch of them. And a carousel is with the horses that go up and down. So it's a carousel of carnage. A carousel of carnage. We'll go with that. So I identify with that. You can freeze up when you see violence, especially if you've seen somebody get shot. You'd be like, God damn. Or just even seeing somebody act weird can freeze up, you know? Where you're like, it's embarrassing almost. Ooh, man, I crashed my bike the other day and I was embarrassed as fuck, even though there's nobody around. It was the middle of the night. I was like, oh, that's embarrassing. Look at me. I'm in pain and I'm trying to get up and my bike is not cooperating. It was like wrapped around me in some weird way and I had to do this crazy like yoga position thing. You know that yoga position where you stick your butt way up in the air but your feet and hands are on the ground? I had to do that, but my bike was like wrapped around my legs and waist. It hurt pretty bad. I had to twist the tire out and stuff. But it was embarrassing. I was like, oh man, this is what? Who's gonna see me falling down and I have blood on my face and stuff? I was like, oh, this is weird to be seen like this and everything. But I don't know. I was mostly embarrassed for me. So that carousel, they say in the movie that it's in Griffith's Park. They say it on the computer screen in Sean Archer's office when he closes Mikey's case after he catches Castor Troy. They say that it was in Griffith's Park, but I've looked up the carousel in Griffith's Park, and that is not it, because the carousel in Griffith's Park has concrete around it. This carousel is a dumb piece of shit that's got grass all around it. All right, so I'm not buying it, you motherfuckers. You try to fool me, it's not gonna happen. You got to wake up pretty early in the morning to get a fake carousel by me. All right, you guys, that's just something I'm not going to let slide. Okay, so Nicolas Cage has a funky ass scar right here, and they seem to sort of highlight it in this movie. I've never noticed it before, but it seems to come up a lot. Maybe just because I'm so used to the movements and stuff that I get bored with where my eye points are supposed to be, and I look around. He's got a real kind of a pretty big scar. It might be like a pockmark or something like that, but it's a pretty good sized scar on his chin. I haven't watched any other Nicolas Cage movies besides this one lately, and I'm never ever going to, so maybe somebody else can figure it out. Maybe they didn't use makeup. Maybe they wanted to highlight it. It almost like he almost like plays with it too, I want to say, in a couple of scenes where he's kind of like, you know, because it's this face. I don't know. Face itches. The face itches, man. There's some foreshadowing. A little bit of foreshadowing about the relationship, Sean Archer and Eve Archer's relationship. There's a part at the beginning where somebody comes in and says, your wife's on line 1, and then somebody else comes in right after and says, we know where they're at, or something. Pollock's paid for a plane with cash. Let's go get him. And they jump up, and then there's a quick shot, 1 second shot of line 1, and the light still lit up, and Eve being on hold, which she mentions later on. I was on hold for 10 minutes. I couldn't wait any longer. You fuck. That's not how she says it, but that's how I read it. Yeah, I'm trying to make a decision right now. I'm going to pause, and we're back. All right. So Nicolas Cage has a scar. Who the fuck cares? We're foreshadowing on the phone. And next, at the beginning of this one, there's a lot of goddammits and shits and butts. There's a part where Sean Archer says, "When this is over with, you can brand the Fourth Amendment on my butt," and he says it like that, on my butt. You can brand the Fourth Amendment on my butt. He says it all stupid. On my butt. That's how he says it. My butt. So there's a lot of these like PG-13 curse words, and then Castor kind of shows up. It almost feels PG-13 until Castor shows up, and then it gets a little more R-rated, but it's only R-rated in the very like outlying sense of it. Like there's they say fuck, and that's about it. Other than that, it's a totally PG-13 movie. they could have squoze it right by if they would have just avoided all the fucks, I think. It's weird. It's weird like that. It's not quite gory. It's not super violent. It's like a... So the new Star Wars movies are PG-13. Like the old Star Wars movies were all PG, which I didn't understand, and I still don't understand the PG-13 because so I watched The Last Jedi. That was the one that I watched in the theater intently and saw the whole thing. I thought it was pretty good. And then I tried watching the other ones, Rogue One and the new other one. But the one thing I was impressed with The Last Jedi that they got totally right from the original Star Wars was just this gleeful murder. Like everybody was so happy to murder, like just gleeful, just oh yeah, this is so much fun. Like yay, I got the gun and I'm shooting everybody in the airplane, and it's just so many people dying. So many people. If you're not actively killing somebody in the Star Wars universe, you are on the verge of being killed by somebody who is. Let me rephrase that. If you're not a killer, if you're not an active killer, if you're not somebody that can murder at the drop of a hat, then you are consistently and constantly on the verge of being murdered by somebody who is and who will fuck your world up, you know? And that is, that's why it's wild that those movies are. I mean, I get that they're not R, but like PG-13, man, there must have been 1,000 people that died in The Last Jedi on screen. You know what I mean? Just get shot. There's no blood or gore really, but man, and they used to chop arms off all the time and stuff. It is weird. I don't know how it works. I mean, I know how it works. It works with that money, baby. Who's pulling in the greenery? That's what it is. So I like Pollux's. Pollux Troy is a douche. I don't like him at all, but I do like when he gets beaten up. It's actually probably the best fight scene in the movie. I would say second best is Carl. When Carl gets his ass whipped, but Pollux is definitely the best because he sucks, and it's just quick. It's just like hard, like 4 or 5 hard hits and a kick, you know, and they like effectively. It's like Tito and Margaret Cho's stunt person. They only had 2. There's this one scene where they could have some action. That was it, and they're like, let's fuck it up, let's do this, and let's end with Pollux Troy's stunt person also, because he gets his ass whooped, and he goes from being a motherfucker. He does this thing, okay, that bullies do, and I see Pollux Troy as a bully. He's a different kind of bully, though. He's not a bully in the same way that his brother is a bully, or that Dietrich is a bully. He's a different kind of bully. He's like a psycho, like a sociopathic, like a thinker, and he appears very meek and then suddenly explodes with violence, you know? That's a pretty unpredictable type of bully. Real creepy. But then the thing that happens is after his explosion of violence gets thwarted, he turns into a kitty cat. He gets scared, and oh God, when he's getting arrested, he yells, he goes, Cass, like he's confused. He's calling for his brother, Cass, what's happening? And when they do it, when he says Cass, it's overdubbed. It's a shitty overdub. Like his mouth doesn't even move. Like it doesn't. It reminded me of Evil Dead 2. There's a part that I loved. It's one of my favorite parts. The whole movie. I don't know why. I mean, I know why. It was because it sort of encompassed the whole feel of the movie. But there's a scene where Bruce Campbell, is fighting with his hand, and he's gotten the better of it finally. He's like holding it down on the ground or something, and he looks over his shoulder, and he says work shed or wood shed. I think it was work shed. That's funny. I totally forgot. It's either work shed or wood shed. And it's totally overdubbed. His face doesn't move at all. It's so good. It's like, this needs to be in here, but we didn't put it in here, so let's just put it in there. It's so like running with the overall vibe of the movie. I learned a word today. I relearned a word today. It was shit. I can't remember what it is now. We'll come back. Anyway, we'll come back to it. We'll find it. It was a good word, but it means like the encompassing of everything in a thing. And so that work shed moment was enduring in Evil Dead because it sort of encompassed everything that Evil Dead was about. It was this do it yourself. We're going by our own rules, sort of thing. So it was like, yep, we're putting it in there because it's important. We think it's important. We're just going to do it. If it's cheesy, who gives a fuck? It still works. Archer. Shit. Archer. So, okay, we were chatting about Face Off as like Greek mythology or something, or Norse mythology. So there's all these weird things that aren't really talked about. They're behind the scenes things, but it would make the story so much better. There's these weird dynamic pulls that don't feel like they were meant for. So at the beginning of this movie, Archer saves Buzz. And Buzz, if you recall, is the corn-fed white boy who doesn't do much. He just sort of stands around in the background of the FBI scenes. He doesn't do very fucking much at all. And but it's interesting because when you realize that he saved Buzz at the beginning, saved his life, saved his body, that Archer saved his body at the beginning, then his actions throughout the rest of the movie seem to make a little bit more sense, and it's quiet though. It so quietly makes sense, and I don't think it was intended. So he's sort of in the background. He puts himself in the background. He wants to be close to Archer, who saved his life, who he looks up to, but he doesn't want to be a nuisance. So he's quiet. He doesn't really say a lot. He's sort of looking for his opportunity, and he's looking and he's lurking sort of in the background. And then he shows up again in an unexpected spot. He shows up as part of the SWAT team who raids Dietrich's house, right? He shows up as part of the SWAT team and he's confronted by Sean Archer as Castor Troy. Now this speaks too, because he's going above and beyond. He's in the team, he's in the team that's going in to get him, because he feels a sense of like owing Archer something. Like he should go in there, he should get this guy because he owes Archer that, because Archer saved his life. The least he could do is help avenge his dead son. That's not too hard. Buzz, come on, dude. And he goes in there, risks his life, and Archer, as Castor Troy, saves him again. He pretends to shoot him. and I mean, he probably gave him some cranial damage by hitting him on the head with a gun, but and he got kicked in the balls, which wasn't cool. So this dude Buzz, man, his whole the ode of, or the ballad of Buzz, there's a whole thing going on there. He's got this whole inner battle, so to speak, going on. It's crazy. It's pretty good. That's a cool dynamic that isn't really taken advantage of in this movie, Oh God, these guys, they kick. Do Americans kick? Do we kick? Are we going to kick somebody? You get into a fight and kick somebody? I saw somebody kick somebody. I saw somebody leg sweep somebody. And it was so bizarre because it was perfect. And it did like you see like Mortal Kombat when they leg sweep somebody and they go, whoa, and they fall backwards. It was like that. It was perfect. Like he ducked down and he spun and leg sweeped, and the other dude just fell right backwards. Whoa! And he made that noise too. Whoa! And fell right backwards. Man, that was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life, though, I think. I think that's how you could probably win a fight, is if you just learned a good kick. And you're on the street and somebody was like, hey, I'm going to fight you. I don't know how fights start. Like, hey, let's fight. And then you kicked them real hard. They'd be like, oh, I wasn't expecting that to get kicked. Here in the United States of America, I don't know. A lot of this stuff is bullshit. There's a bookend. Castor, every time he's facing down death, he sings a song, I'm ready for the big ride, baby. So it's kind of like a callback at the end when he actually is dying. Like, I'm ready for the big ride. It's so stupid. Like, this weird bravado, but it's more like a bluff. Like, it's like at the beginning. Oh, that's an interesting dynamic. It's like at the beginning, he's trying to bluff Sean Archer into, he's trying to bluff him into distraction so he can stab him with a hidden knife because Archer has a gun to his head. And then in the end, it's like he's trying to bluff himself, and he's like actually looking at himself as he's dying because Sean Archer has his face. So he's bluffing himself into saying, oh, maybe I'll hold on. Nope, I got harpooned in the guts. So time to motherfucking die, son. So Sean, at the beginning here, when he's got the drop on Castor, looks at him with this weird mix. It's the one it's one emotion that I feel like Travolta almost got. And I think that's because he is an amazingly gigantic narcissist. It probably has to do with some Scientology stuff too. That so he looks at Castor Troy with this sort of mix of disgust and also like he wants to, like a fascination. Like he wants to know him. Like, man, it's a weird mixture. It gives him an odd look, and it's almost like a person would look at a bug, and be like, ew, that's gross. It's horrifying, but I want to not look away, like maybe how you'd look at a car crash or something like that. It's disgust and fascination. But I feel like he probably has a lot of practice with that because I think he's an unchecked narcissist that it's got some serious religious delusions too. I'm talking about Scientology here, guys. Come on. I'm winding down here. Anyway, it's a weird look. It's worth checking out. It's right at the beginning when he gets the drop on him in the airplane hangar. There's a little foreshadowing on the riot scene. Pollock's his commentary on the nature videos that they play in Erewhon prison it's like they're begging us to riot. It's like they're begging us with these nature videos. It's a weird. They're just begging us, and then they do riot, and that's part of the guards' sadomasochism, as they play these shitty, placid videos that are just making people simmer, and they know they got the drop on them that they're not going to be able to riot because they got the metal boots and blah blah blah, but then they do because the best laid plans of mice and men, my friend. You want to hear God laugh? Make a plan. And then you're going to have a prison riot on your hands. I like so I don't like it in this movie, but I like the idea of being able to incite a riot with a chant. And in this movie, the chant is, anybody got a light? You got a light? I need a light. Something like that. He's talking about a cigarette. but it's simple. It's to the point. It's saying I'm being denied something simple and basic that I want and/or need. How long until you're denied this right? And then everybody says, yeah, fuck that. Let's get going. You know what I mean? It reminds me of the Attica chant. Attica, 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 Attica. Attica was a huge prison riot. I think the biggest prison riot that there has been. You know, there's thousands of prisoners and stuff went on for a long time. Bloody, evil, crazy. Speaking of weird chants, there's this thing that happens, and it's always Archer talking to Castor, and he says die, but he says it in the weirdest ways. He says die, and like grabs him and chokes him, and it's just this gross, over the top kind of crazy thing. It's at the end. There's like 4 or 5 different times that he says that, you know, please die, all these different ways. It's like one of those things where it's like, maybe you could try it like you're, I don't know, like you're verging on insanity. Maybe you could try it like you're angry. Maybe you could try it like you're going to throw up, you know, because there were so many different times. There's a part where Castor as Archer comments on Archer as Castor and says, it's okay to the guards. He says, it's okay after he's been choked. It's okay. Obviously, he's had a traumatic childhood. Maybe that's an insight. Maybe that's an insight into Castor's childhood. Maybe he's saying, this is why I'm a crazy fuck, yo. It's because I had a traumatic childhood. Do you think a traumatic childhood could turn somebody into a terrorist for hire? You know, it seems like it'd be something you're born into, like that Assassins movie. Was that Assassins? All right, so the electric head shocker goes up to 150 volts. I don't know if that's a lot. It seems like more than I want to have going into my eyeballs and brain hole. I wonder if Dubov is French. Dubov, the prisoner that everybody treats like a retard. See, that I could cut. You treat him like an artard. They all treat him like an artard. And I wonder if he's just French and doesn't speak English and nobody knows it. Because he like literally, he talks like the Incredible Hulk. And there's one point where Archer as Castor stops him and says, no, Dubov, and then shakes his head, no. Like, this is the only way to get through with him is simple body motions, you know? So I wonder if he's just misunderstood. He's just a French dude who's misunderstood. Speaking of misunderstood, Castor Troy as Archer has these weird little vocal tics where he says stuff like, yes, well, or, ah, yes. And it's strange because he didn't do that at the beginning of the movie. It's like he's pretending to be, it's like his impression of fucking Sean Archer is this sort of effete, you know, upper crust, like he has this illusion. Sean Archer comes across more like this working class, selfish dingbat, but the way that Castor Troy plays him is like this upper crust elite, not elite, but upper crust, like effete sort of guy that's like, like a poncy little fellow. Yeah, you know, that's an odd choice, really. It works, I guess, in the first watch, but 50 watches in, I'm not 50, it's only 11. Fuck, it doesn't work. All right, Sean Archer again, proving his selfishness, proving his unthinking, one directional mind, his what do you call those? He's got blinders on. He's just an asshole. He is a selfish prick. He is sitting with Dietrich, known killer. He's sitting with 2 of Dietrich's henchmen, known killers. These are bad dudes. And he is saying, and because he's sitting with them because he has Castor Troy's fucking face. And he is saying, I am Castor Troy. I am the one that you guys idolize. I'm like a minor deity to you guys. And what my desire is to capture Sean Archer and cut his face off. And they say, how are you going to do that? And he says, he's vulnerable at home. And they say, he's got to have an alarm. And he says, yeah, he does. But the code is 10, I want to say it was 10/16/86. His dead son's birthday. And they go, whoa, cool, dude. What an asshole. He's high as fuck on drugs. He's not going anywhere. And he tells them, oh, yes, here's my main desire is to catch this dude. And here's how it can be done. And you murderers just go out. His wife and kid are still in that house. They're still being protected by that fucking alarm. What a prick. He's such a selfish cunt. I hate him so much. I hate him. Sean Archer is a nasty dude. He is the epitome of selfishness. Just one, man, it's ugly. It's so bad. So bad. And I mean, Castor Troy has a lot of shitty qualities, murder, pedophilia, all this different stuff, but god damn. And Archer kills cops, man. He kills cops, just shoots them right in the back, right in the chest, kills them because he's trying to escape prison, because he's trying to get out of this fucking, it's nuts. He's reckless. He is a bastard. Murder in this movie for people is routine, and it comes across really well when Gina Gershon grabs a rifle and just blasts this SWAT team dude. Just blasts him. Done for. And then just fucking Matt Ross, Loomis, comes jumping out from behind a corner with a rocket launcher and just starts. It's like, damn, dude, seriously? You're going to rocket launch somebody? It's just like, it's okay. Murder is routine. It's good. I think that's not a good thing to see. I'm playing games right now where I murder people. I'm back into the murdering games. And it's weird when that's what you do. It's your thing. You go walk around and murder people. They're just representations of people, but you're still doing it. Still pulling that trigger. It's weird because I stopped playing murder video games for a long time, and when I started playing them again, those first couple of kills were a little gitchy. I was like, ooh, this doesn't feel right. And then it got easier and easier. Easier and easier. Video games. I'm not, that's the whole thing is, I don't think video games lead to real life violence at all. That's it. There you go. I think it probably prevents a lot of real life violence, actually. I think that there's environmental factors that aren't being considered at all that lead to real life violence. And I think that video games probably quell some of that desire to go out and murder. Actually, that was an Ice-T tweet where he said, I play violent video games so I don't murder people in real life. I play violent video games so I don't murder people in real. That's a terrible Ice-T impression. So I don't murder people in real life. I play violent video games so I don't murder people in real life. I can't do it. But yeah, so that's a pretty good summation of it. You play them, and then you don't go out and kill people. I think it's like that. Like these days, if you live your life and you don't ever have the desire to murder, you're probably outside of the norm. You're probably an outlier. If it doesn't pop up every once in a while, I want to choke people's brains. That's what I want to do. Ugh, the blood sample. So Eve Archer takes a blood sample from Castor as Archer, and it's with the biggest it's like a thing this big, And it's like the needle is like that big too. And she just jabs it into his arm when he's sleeping. Like, are you fucking serious? And he wakes up a little bit, but not a lot. And his arm is so gross and hairy. I just wonder if there was some sort of hair filter on other movies where it cuts the hair down a little bit or it makes it more palatable. And they just didn't use it on this movie because there's so much just body hair and it's weird. I'm not real squirmish about body hair either. But, man, and it's not just body hair. It is, I guess. It's all hair on a body, so it is. It's this weird hair thing. Eve Archer's got this strange, like whipped cream hair or something where it's just this sculpted. It looks like a carving or a statue or something like that from Rome. I don't know. Never moves. It's weird. Oh, yeah. So Castor, as Archer, shows up to the hospital to confront Eve about leaving after she jabbed him in the arm, and he brings his thugs with him. He brings his Castor thugs with him. That's a weird thing to do. He's stupid. So these guys are just like totally gangster, and they didn't get arrested obviously at the beginning of the in the airport scene, but they must be known entities. What a weird conversation that must have been with him and them to be like, I'm Castor Troy. I'm just in Sean Archer's face. And they're like, all right, whatever, just pay us money. It doesn't even matter. We have no loyalties. That's just, you shouldn't run around with those guys if you're trying to be incognito, you know? Two last things. One is that I think if you were an explosion, I think if I was an explosion, it would be very embarrassing if I whistled at some point. And that happens all the time in this movie. Something explodes and it whistles. It does that whistly thing. I think that would be embarrassing. They'd be like trying to talk and you have this beautiful, I can't do a beautiful deep baritone. You have a beautiful deep voice. A beautiful deep voice. And your nostril is just whistling the whole time. Stupid. They have this beautiful booming explosion and it just whistles. Shh, shh. So dumb. I think that would be embarrassing as hell. The last thing I have is that when Archer shows up after his surgery, nobody picks him up at the hospital, obviously. And he shows back up at his house, and he's John Travolta. So the implication being there that those love handles that they took off at the beginning, they put them back on. Because he's definitely not the trim Nicolas Cage figure that he was. He's now... So do they, could they use a reverse liposuction or something? They just shoot some fat back in there? Was it like some artificial fat? Did they change their hands? God, there's so many unanswered questions here. So many. I think in the Greek tragedy version of it, it'll either be like mystical or some sort of weird, archaic surgery thing, you know, crazy bandages and and stents and stuff. Terre Noire. Terre Noire? I think that's the word. I know I got the word here somewhere. Let me pull it up. Terroir. Terroir? I think it's terroir. Terroir is the quality of everything in the environment. So it's a wine thing. Wine and fine foods thing. So if you have a certain grape, and then you have a wine that comes from a vintage, you know, a certain place, and you try to recreate it, just take the grape and grow it in California or something and recreate it. It won't be the same because of all the environmental factors that go into it, you know. So Anyway, that's a stupid short explanation for a really interesting thing, but I'm ready to jump off this fish. I gotta go donate plasma in an hour. This is so stupid. I'm gonna be right there when they open those doors, baby. Yeah, gonna really do that shit. So we come to the end of another episode. I felt like this was fine. I felt like it was okay. Make your own decisions, though. As far as that goes. As far as anything goes. Oh, that was the other thing. That was a thing. I touched briefly a couple episodes ago on Annihilation, the movie with Natalie Portman and several other people that I don't know their names, but I feel like I'm going to soon. There was the woman who was a boss in Westworld was also in this movie, and somebody else too, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Anyway, oh, and who's that other dude? Was that Oscar Isaac also? I think it might have been. Had a minorish kind of role. Anyway, terrible movie. It seemed like I was bored shitless watching it, and I didn't care for it. But it was a book. It was a book beforehand, and so I've learned that if there's sort of a spark, because it wasn't the worst movie I'd ever seen, but it was super boring. And I've learned over the years that if there's a spark in the movie, even though it's a shitty movie and it's based on a book, you should read the book, because and Angela told me this. She was the one that pointed it out. Everybody knows. I mean, it goes way back. Like Stephen King would write good stories and they'd make shitty movies out of them. That was a well-known thing that happened. And it continues. And it feels more pointed. Like there's very few movies based on books that were good, that lived up to the book. And one example I can think of that was good was Cloud Atlas. But I think they went out of their way to involve the writer of that book. I'm pretty sure he was a director on that movie. There's the Wachowskis and him directing it, and it was good. Like I couldn't even read the book because the movie was so good. Like I got about halfway through and I was like, why the fuck am I bothering reading this? It's like I'm watching the movie. I've already seen it, and it's just really solid. He took all the cues and the twists and the turns and stuff and really worked it out. But the list of movies based on books that suck are numerous. One of the big examples I had come across was American Psycho. I'd never read the book for American Psycho, and then I read it and I was like, holy shit, Jesus Christ, because I thought the movie was crazy. The book was like, holy fucking shit, it was off the charts nuts. Like, good Christ, man, this is holy hell. Because the movie was crazy. It was wild. It still is, But the book, fuck. It was like they made the movie to tame the book, was the feeling that I got. And so I picked up Annihilation. It's a 3-part series, and finished the Annihilation part of it, and it was good. It was a good book. It was really well written, really solid, good characters, and they did the thing that I like that they didn't do in the movie, and it pissed me off that they didn't do it. It was like the book started like 45 minutes into the movie, you know what I mean? Like it started right in the middle of everything, and you had to figure stuff out, and you had to work things out, you had to remember stuff. There was some work involved in it, and the movie didn't. It started out fucking boring, and it stayed boring, and it lost interest like right away basically, and and by the time, they call that a slow burn, but which can work. Slow burns can work, man. What was that movie, There Will Be Blood? That was a hell of a slow burn right at the beginning. I don't even think there was words in that movie for the first half an hour. It was crazy, dude. Just have a movie go for half an hour, just some dude stumbling around. I'm like, oh, what the fuck is going on? But it worked, it was good. So slow burns can work, but shit, man. There's got to be some payoff. It can't just be fucking boring as fuck the whole time. Anyway, I don't know what I'm trying to say with that. I'm trying to say if a movie comes out and you watch it and it's terrible and you find out that it was based on a book, try reading the book. The book is probably pretty good. Either that or it sucks. One of the two. All right, I'm going to get the fuck out of here. Hey, thanks for hanging out. Check out Don't Be Fun on all social media stuff. I'm going to be just not leaving my house for the next several years. Probably I'm taking an online course in hermitry, and I'm gonna just try avoidance with the human race for the foreseeable future. So let's party with that, man. If you wanna hermit together with me over the internet, don't, because that's how we hermit. This is how we hermit. So I'm out of here. Thanks for listening, sticking around. Oh, this was a pretty fun episode. I had a good time. I feel better about it now and everything. So thanks for hanging out. Questions, comments, concerns, pictures of pugs. I'm interested in those. All online. Don't Be Fun. Everywhere. That's it. There's nothing else going on. If you want to hang out in the parking garage at River Park Square in the middle of the night, come on by and just howl my name outside of the gates, and I will eventually walk by because I'm there all the time. All right. But it's got to be the middle of the night, though. Way deep into the night. Way deep into the night. Here's a good word. Rabbinical. That is having to do with a rabbi. That's a good word. It sounds nice. Rabbinical. All right, man. I'm out of here. Thank you guys. I'm trying to spontaneously come up with a catchphrase here. Have a great life.